Hey there friends, my name is Jeff Fritz, and I want to talk to you about some life hacks, some developer tips and tricks that are going to make you more successful, help you write code that's a little more productive, and also be able to pass things off to other developers, work together on a project team just a little bit better. I have 6 tips for you that I'm going to share in this video. Now, if you like videos like this one, make sure you click the subscribe button just below and click that bell so you're notified when my next set of tips videos gets released. I've got other videos that we're planning around Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Now, first thing I want to suggest to you is a sample that comes up in this project that I want to share. And it's you should make your code more readable, more consumable for humans. Computers know how to interact with the code that you're going to write, but humans need to be able to read your code, respond to it, interpret it, and enhance it in the future. So let's write some more maintainable code for other humans. And in this project, I want to show you a technique where I limit the scope of a particular method and make it clearer exactly what's going on inside of that code. There's a link to this project in the description just below that I want you to check out. This is fritz.staticweb. This is a website generator that I wrote that allows you to take Markdown and turn it into HTML for a static website. And inside of here, there's a couple of project folders, but in particular, I'm going to go into Fritz Static Blog, and you can see I have a program CS file here that contains some C# that gets you started with this application. This is where we jump off and start running our application. And right here, we receive the arguments that are being passed in. It doesn't matter what actually is going on here, but you can see this is one line of code really inside this main method. It's our entry point to the application. And if we're passed information to build our project, build our application, it will do that and trigger this method here, options execute on our action build. If we're told to create something with an action create here, it'll go in and create things with options create inside that object. Let me show you what's inside the action build class, because this is where I really want to call out writing code to make it easier for other humans to read and enhance in the future. So down here inside the execute method, now this is C#, but you can apply this to other languages as well. Inside C#, in this execute method, I have just a few very clear method calls to reach out and do more complex things that make it easy for another human to understand what's going on. I'm going to build posts, I'm going to build pages, build my index page, deploy the www root, all the static resources, the CSS files, images, JavaScript. It's all very easy to see that this is the chain of operations that takes place when we execute a build operation. And you can go down and see further. There's a lot more complex things that go on here, a bunch of if-then statements to inspect and decide what to do and how to build files and render all of the content necessary. The second tip that I have for you is to get better at using your tools. Learn to use your developer tools as best as possible. If you're using Visual Studio Code, learn some new hotkeys every week. Go through and tinker with things. As you're working inside Visual Studio Code, it will prompt you and show you, here's a hotkey that will help you accelerate and do these tasks faster. So here inside of Visual Studio Code, when I go to a menu, you can see it shows me the hotkeys for these. Try them out next time that you're inside your tool. Maybe you're not using Visual Studio Code. Maybe you're using Vim or Emacs or Sublime or some other editor. That's okay. Keep an eye on what these hotkeys are and learn them. Because the more that we as developers have our hands on the keyboard, the more productive we're going to be, because you're going to be typing. As soon as you reach over and use this thing, the mouse, you're going to start to slow down a little bit. The more we can type and keep our hands in one place, the faster and more productive we'll be. So that's one thing that you can focus on right? And certainly when you're using Vim or Emacs or other text-based editors like that, you can reconfigure your hotkeys so that they work the way that you like to work. Maybe you don't use a QWERTY keyboard layout. Maybe you prefer a Dvorak keyboard layout or some other layout because you're using an international keyboard. Remap those hotkeys so they work for you and not you working for your editor. Next tip that I have for you, my third tip, is automate everything. You can write unit tests for your projects that'll run automatically whenever you want to build and work with your code. You can see here in this project, I have some unit tests that are built and hanging over here that I can run whenever I want to test and make sure that my application continues to work. Automating that testing and verification process is going to save you a ton of time. Yeah, it'll take you a little bit of extra time to write the tests up front. But a month later, 2 months later, when the next developer picks up and looks at your code, they'll see those tests, they'll be able to run those tests and understand how your code is supposed to work. And don't just write unit tests here inside your project, but also engage in continuous integration and continuous delivery practices. Let me show you another project that I have out on GitHub that has a lot of this type of process configured and ready to go. This is my Stream Tools project, and it has GitHub Actions configured that will automatically compile and run tests inside of my project. I have an Actions tab here that I can click into and see exactly how those tests are running. Not only can I see those tests running, but I can also, with GitHub, include something called Dependabot. Now, Dependabot will analyze the code inside my project and tell me when there's a security patch needed or when there's an upgrade available to one of my dependencies. Now, I write with C#, so it'll analyze my NuGet packages. But if you use JavaScript, it'll analyze your NPM packages, it'll analyze your pip packages if you're working with Python. Take a look at Dependabot out there. It'll create these pull requests for you, and you can see a couple of them right here that are real easy for me to click through and make sure my application stays current with all my dependencies. The fourth tip that I have for you is take a break regularly. We're human. You need to sleep at the end of the day. You need to take a break and go get some lunch, get some coffee, go get a glass of water. Spend some time for you, taking time and going and practicing and being human. There are some folks that believe in the Pomodoro technique, and in practicing that technique, they'll spend 25 minutes focused on whatever their task is that they're working on. At the end of those 25 minutes, they'll take 5 minutes for themselves. They'll get up, they'll walk around, spend some time talking to friends at the water cooler or getting a cup of coffee, going to the restroom. And at the end of those 5 minutes, they've taken time for themselves. They'll come back, they'll sit down, and they'll set a timer for another 25 minutes of focused work. And they'll pick a task and focus on it for those 25 minutes. After about 6 Pomodoros, 3 hours of work, they'll take a half an hour to an hour break, go get some lunch, go for a walk outside, go for a walk around your home, your office building, spend some time for you to get refreshed, get relaxed, get back into it. It's okay to work long hours every now and again, but working 12, 14, 16-hour days for weeks on end is not good for you. You're not going to be thinking clearly, and the code that you write is not going to be as productive. The fifth tip I have for you is back up your configuration scripts. You've got configuration scripts for your projects, for your editors that you're using. You might be using Vim or Tmux or other tools that have your preferred configuration. You've configured your editor to work for you, so let's take all of that configuration information and put it somewhere where you can restore it. You might use Dropbox, you might use OneDrive or a Google Drive. All of those are great locations that you can save those files so you can restore them back to your workstation and get productive again, right? I have a repository out here that I go to that has all of my .dot files sitting in it, and I can bring them back whenever I want, and it's sitting here under C#Fritz/.files on GitHub. So as soon as I install my Git tools on a new workstation, I can clone this repository. There's my vimrc, my tmux configuration, other configuration files, so that I can be up and running again. In fact, I even wrote some scripts that are sitting here in a bin folder that I can run, and it will go and download my preferred fonts, my plugins that I like to use for tmux and vim, put them down properly, configure my prompt so I'm up and running in no time. I also put some of my favorite wallpapers in here as well, so that I can feel good knowing that I have the exact same background that I prefer, so that I have the same background that I prefer, so that when I'm running on Linux and I'm peering out the window to the rest of the world. So save your .dot files, save your configuration files somewhere that works for you, so that if something happens to this machine, you can be up and running on a new machine in no time. The last tip that I have for you, my 6th tip, is start using EditorConfig. Let me show you. This is EditorConfig.org. This is an open standard that folks have written that allow you to define preferences for how you use your code editors. So you can see down here, there's example files you can put in here that say, the end of the line I want with line feeds. So that's how files look, text files look when you save on a Mac or on a Linux operating system. Maybe you want to have them end properly for Windows operating systems, so you can change this to carriage return line feed. And I can also specify different character sets, different formatting for different files here. And as a simple default configuration that every text editor can read, I can put this EditorConfig file into my open source projects, into my shared projects I work with other teammates on, and when they download or clone my source code from GitHub, they'll get that same configuration that I prefer and use inside their text editor. If you work with Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio, maybe Visual Studio for Mac, you can put down an EditorConfig and it'll be enforced in those files as well. Additionally, you can use an EditorConfig with Visual Studio, full Visual Studio 2019 or 2022, and it will enforce some of the rules you may have around interacting with C# inside that file. And here inside Fritz Stream Tools, if I scroll down a little bit inside this EditorConfig, there's some configuration options that I've used Visual Studio to configure as an extension on top of the EditorConfig capabilities to light up and specify how I want to name my C# files, how I want to put spaces between things, and how I want to have my braces around block level statements. And I can also put some other configuration for JavaScript files that I want to enforce as well. Really cool stuff that you can put into that EditorConfig so that everybody knows the same code style rules that we're writing with. That way you don't look at your code files that are delivered for a project and it kind of looks like a mishmash patchwork quilt, because here's the code that was written by one person and here's code that was written by another, and it's two different styles altogether. This will help get everybody on the same page. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. I've got more tips coming. I've got some videos about Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio 2022 tips, and other coding productivity tips coming for you, as well as all kinds of great videos about how you can be a better developer. If you like videos like that, do me a favor, click that subscribe button just below, click the thumbs up to let me know that you like videos like this, and the notification bell so you get notified when more videos are made available. Thanks so much for watching.